I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and part 2 of the LG Optimus 4X HD versus Samsung Galaxy S3 dogfight starts in just a second. But first, gotta give some love to my boys at Best Buy Mobile because they hook us up with phones like this for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game, which we turn around and give to you on the site. You win free phones. That's super cool, right? That's what I thought. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you won't deal with rebates. You'll walk out the door without paperwork or waiting 8 to 10 weeks for those obnoxious debit cards that we all hate. At Best Buy Mobile, you don't deal with rebates. Which one's the king? Is it the Optimus 4X HD or the Samsung Galaxy S3? We'll find out in part 2, which rolls right now. Part 2 of a dogfight battle between two hot high-end Android phones. One is a Samsung Galaxy S3. Unfortunately, it's not the international version, but it's the closest one out of the US build as far as I'm concerned, the T-Mobile Samsung Galaxy S3. Then you have the LG Optimus 4X HD, available unlocked for about $600 through online retailers like negrielectronics.com and Expansis USA. So let's take a look and jump right in and see which one of these is the best in a dogfight battle. So obviously, you know, two Korean giants here, Samsung and LG. LG kind of faltering a little bit in the US. They've released some devices like the Revolution, the Spectrum, but they haven't had really a home run. Had the G2X, which I thought was a great device, but unfortunately it didn't receive any sort of upgrade support when it comes to Ice Cream Sandwich, and I feel like T-Mobile didn't represent it as good as they could have. That said, Galaxy S3 available on 5 US carriers, 4 nationwide carriers in US Cellular, and in the Optimus 4X HD, not available yet in the US, but rumor is that it may come to Verizon in a little bit of a different look and feel, and perhaps some slightly different specs as well. But just to give you a rundown here, I don't want to go too far into the specs. Take a look at part 1 if you don't know the specs, because I did go over those. But 4.8-inch Super AMOLED HD display, 4.7-inch here. So a little bit of a different design. You can see the Samsung one is more curved. It looks a lot like a Pebble. It's designed by, or made for humans, designed for nature, whatever their motto is. I can never keep it straight. But then this one over here, a little bit more boxy. And just to give you an idea of how it looks, you got a volume rocker over here on the left side, a power button up top with your 3.5mm headphone jack, micro USB charging port at the bottom, available in white and black. And then it has a 2,150 milliamp hour battery. A little bit smoother over here, fingerprint magnet, but a little bit more smooth on the back and on the side. So let's take a look at browsing. Without further ado, load up PhoneDog.com on both of these, and then we'll take a look at the keyboards from there. So you can see PhoneDog's already loaded up over here. Pinch to zoom, incredibly responsive on the Galaxy S3. So the immediate concern was dual-core processor versus quad-core processor. Is the Galaxy S3 going to lag? Not at all. You know, you've got the quad-core processor on the international version with 1 GB of RAM. Then the US version has the dual-core Snapdragon S4 with 2 GB of RAM. So more RAM, a little bit of a different processor. But that said, I've been really impressed with the US build. Now that said, there's a noticeable difference between the international, or at least I should say as a phone reviewer, there's a difference between the US version and the international version. That said, been really impressed with this, and the 4G capabilities are more than enough to make up for the little bit of change between the two processors. But you can see portrait to landscape nice and fast. Again, 4.8 inches is a really nice, I don't want to say sweet spot, because plenty of people like devices with smaller displays. But that said, even at 4.8, it is a little bit large in the hand, but the curves make it a little bit easier to hold. 4.7 inches over here, I find this one just to be a little bit harder to hold just because of the way it's designed, the way it's more of a boxy kind of device. A little bit harder to hold, a little bit harder to get to the top over here, whereas here, I feel like it's a little bit easier despite having an inch larger display. So pinch to zoom, responsive over here. You got your tabs on this side where I can scroll back and forth, and then over here I've got my tabs up top in kind of TouchWiz look and feel format, if you will. You've got a plus button to add additional tabs, and then I can scroll up and down. I've got my menu button down here. So a little bit of a different look and feel. I talked about this in part 1 as well, because you've got a back button, a home button, and a menu button. Over here you have a menu button which doubles up as a search button by pressing and holding, and then you've got a home button here, and then you've got a back button right here as well. And then you've got this home button, press and hold, or double tap twice to access S-Voice, and then if I want, press and hold, as you can see here, and I can get the task manager, which I can click on the task manager and then access my memory, and I can go to RAM and I can either clear it out or I can remove individual applications pretty quickly and pretty easily there. So let's take a look also at quadrant standard while we're thinking about speed tests, because I want to give you a head-to-head comparison here. 1.5 gigahertz dual-core processor, 1.5 gigahertz quad-core Tegra 3 processor, and I think you'll be impressed because, you know, you look at dual-core versus quad-core and you think, okay, quad-core is going to be a lot faster. Not the case. The S4 CPU, and this is coming from somebody who really didn't care for the S3. You look at the S3, which is what was in the Samsung Galaxy Note, the resound. Some of the older Android devices, the S3 processor was really not the best processor in the world, to put it lightly. S4 is worlds different. I've had no problems whatsoever with speed or with any lag issues on the Snapdragon S4 CPU. Been really impressed with it, and I think you will be too if you choose to buy this from T-Mobile or any of the US carriers. So that is something to keep in mind. Optimus 4X HD, 1.5 gigahertz quad-core Tegra 3 processor, definitely fast, but I'm just saying take a look at the speed test results and see what you think. Earpiece quality, fantastic on both. That will give a slight edge to the Samsung because you have the ability on the US versions to kind of boost the sound. You can get it to the maximum volume, then there's a sound boost, which I'll show you in just a second. But over here, 4,887 on the Optimus 4X HD. On the Galaxy S3, you've got 4,808. So you can see how close these are, and obviously take quadrant standard with a grain of salt, but how close they are despite the fact that this one's quad-core, this one's dual-core. So again, keep that in mind when you're looking and considering between these two devices. So let's load in the camera while we're thinking about it. 8-megapixel camera on both of these devices. And actually, I'll do it like this. Let's bring in the Galaxy Nexus. Let's see. It just happened to be right here because I was looking at some Jelly Bean features earlier for some research purposes. And so we'll load this up and take a look. And one thing I love about the Galaxy S3, the camera features. So come in here, for example, and we'll take a look. You've got burst shot, you've got HDR, smile shot, a lot of different options, including buddy photo share, which I really like. If you're at a party, you've got a Galaxy S3, your buddy has a Galaxy S3, a wedding, something like that, you can turn on Wi-Fi and share your photos. So if you take 10 pictures, or you're like me, you take no pictures because you don't like using your phone at like a wedding or a special occasion, then you have the photog over there that's taking 100 pictures on their phone. Well, with Buddy Photo Share, you both can walk out with 100 pictures. Then burst shot's pretty cool as well. I like this feature. You've got 20 different shots, and I can turn on best shot, and it'll reduce that number to 7, or I'm sorry, 8. But I can choose, and watch this. So I can just press and hold, and when I let go, it'll take all 8 shots and show me down here at the bottom, as you can see, which one is the best. But absolutely incredible camera. I think the 4S still rivals it just by a slight margin, but 4S, the 1X camera is fantastic. It's definitely kind of a three-way tie in the mobile space between the camera on the Galaxy S3, the camera on the 1X, and the iPhone 4S. For me, in daily use, I can't find any difference between those three cameras. So again, take a look here. Google, easy to read. And you've got Samsung down there at the bottom. Very clear and good looking. This is not the strong suit of this phone. Camera has an 8 megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording, and it's certainly decent, don't get me wrong. It's not terrible. But when you look at this, just in comparison, again, looking screen to screen, but when you look at it in comparison and you see these printed out or you see these sent via email, a much better experience on the Galaxy S3 with the camera. Last but not least, I want to show you this as well because we talked about it just a second ago with the sound. I'm going to load up the phone. We're going to dial 611 just for sake of example, and you've got your different shortcuts down here. So once it's connected, I'll show you what I'm talking about. This right here, so I can get the maximum volume, and then I can turn on sound boost for extra volume. So it's nice, at least in terms of an earpiece, if you're deaf like me, it's a little bit easier to hear. And then of course you've got speaker, you've got mute headset, activate the keypad. Picture of my face is the shortcut where you're just going to have to watch part 1, my friends. So we'll load up 611 here just to give you a sample as to what it looks like. And you get the same shortcuts down here. Speaker, dial pad, Bluetooth, mute, contacts, and more. Although to me this has a little bit more of an ice cream sandwich stock. Take that with a grain of salt. Like kind of stockish look and feel over here in the Optimus 4X HD. So both of these are killer devices. You got two great options, two great Android options, and this is the beauty of Android, right? The ability to come in and say, I want this phone with this processor and this look and feel. And yeah, it's kind of hard to find a device, but hopefully with your list like that, you can find a device that fits for you. With something like the iPhone or perhaps Windows Phone with fewer devices, you're kind of restricted as to what you can choose. If you want the polycarbonate shell on Windows Phone, you're kind of stuck with the Lumia 900. If you want something a little bit more metal, you're kind of stuck with the Titan 2, at least in the current device lineup. With Android, it's like, I want this, I want plastic, I want it to be rounded, I want it to have at least a 4.5-inch display, I want it to have a dual-core CPU, etc., 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 and you have the ability to pick an Android device that's right for you. That said, the winner of the dogfight, because of software, camera, and close quadrant standard scores, the Samsung Galaxy S3. I think it's a great value proposition, and like I go back to at the end of any day, of course these are dogfights between two devices, but money matters, right? And the fact that most people in the US are on 4 nationwide smartphone carriers, perhaps US Cellular, you can get it for $199 as opposed to spending $600 for the Optimus 4X Optimus 4X HD. Got too many like 4Gs and LTEs and like epic 4G touch names rolling around in my mind. But you see what I'm saying here. $199 for this, subsidized with a 2-year agreement. $600 for this with no opportunity to get it for $199 or even $299. So that's a winner of the dogfight because of specs, price point, and some other things. Samsung Galaxy S3. Let me know what you think, though. Which Korean giant is your favorite? Is it Samsung? Is it LG? Or do you like something else, like HTC or even Apple or one of the Windows phone manufacturers or OEMs? Let me know. PhoneDog_Aaron on Twitter, Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB, and be sure to cast your vote in our official smartphone rankings at PhoneDog.com/rankings. I'm out. More dogfights to go. Stay tuned for more on both of these devices, and in the meantime, hit us up on the site at PhoneDog.com. We'll see you next time.